The women's changing rooms. First door on the left. You're welcome to come in. You would not want to miss this. Hosted by Ginette and Donessa.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the Women's Changing Rooms. I'm Ginette.
And I am Donessa. Welcome to the Women's Changing Room, where all is stripped bare. We traverse the globe to empower and uplift all our women.
Yes, we do. And today we have got a special guest on joining us. Today we're going to be talking about a sensitive topic for both of us, which is close to our heart, and also it affects all of us in the Black community. So today we are going to be discussing sickle cell. So we have Latiya joining us today, which is my niece, and we're going to be asking her some questions. We also got some questions, sent over some questions to your niece, yes, and she has answered because she couldn't join us today due to unforeseen circumstances.
That's right. Yes. So are we ready to begin? We should invite Latiya on so we can start. Yes, and as you said, I have my niece's answers ready, so we'll get into that.
Yes, let's go. It's going to be the first time I'm interviewing my niece. So, yeah. So
nice to meet you, Vanessa.
Nice to meet you too.
Welcome.
I'm excited.
Welcome for joining the Women's Changing Rooms. So could you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I'm just putting up volume, but yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. So are you ready for us to ask you the questions?
Yes, I'm ready. I'm excited.
All right, let's get into it. So first of all, tell us about Latiya. So if you just give us a background about yourself.
So as Ginette said, my name is Latiya. I'm 26 years old. I'm from London, so I'm based and live in London, and I suffer from sickle cell SS. So it's sickle cell anemia. But yeah, no, I still live like a normal life. I still do what I do. So yeah, I'm happy.
Oh, that's good. Well, I'll answer too, because I am answering. I don't know if Ginette told you, but I'm answering for my niece, and her name is Shirice Belgrave. She's from here, Grenada, and she is 11 years. I think I always get her age incorrect. But when she was younger, she was diagnosed with sickle cell trait, but as she got older, they told her it's sickle cell. So that's what she has going on.
Okay, right. That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
So Latiya, if you want to tell us what age you was diagnosed with sickle cell.
So I believe I was diagnosed when I was 3 months old. Obviously, I wouldn't remember that exactly, but from what my mum has told me, when I was 3 months old, I had my first crisis. And that's when I was diagnosed with sickle cell. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I remember that as well. I was really young, but I always remember how your hands will swell, like they'll go so puffy, and your feet really, really puffy as well. It affects your hands and feet more when you was younger. Well, when you was at that age anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember that. And so Donessa, when you said about your niece
I'm not seeing an answer here for her, and I'm not sure as well. I know she was pretty young. I know she has asthma and bronchitis, and then later on, maybe about 2, then they got into, seeing like, okay, maybe it's sickle cell traits. And then as she got into like 9, and so then they were like, okay, it's full-blown sickle cell. So I know the timeline and the framing is not right, but it's around that area.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting that you said that they at first thought it was sickle cell trait, and then only later on they realized that it was actually full-blown sickle cell.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes you question as well, like the medical side of things in the Caribbean, how they deal with it and how they diagnose it as well.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting, and
Exactly.
I think it's something that
yeah.
should be
And as we touched on, we don't have the best medical system here on the island. However, I can't speak for everyone, but all I know that is her journey so far.
Yeah. Okay.
So the next question is, how do you keep up with taking your medication?
Yes, so I'm on daily medication for my sickle cell. For me, it's just become the norm. So for everyone else, I don't know how they will usually, for an example, how everyone wakes up, you brush your teeth, for example, just taking medication becomes the norm to me because I know it's part of my everyday routine. Because I've been doing it for so young, since like a young child as well, it's just like something that's like embedded in me. Like I always remember to take my medication. So I think that's how I've incorporated it into my like daily routine, because it's just become the norm for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's really interesting. And what about with Charisse? How does she?
Charisse is not on any medication per se since it all started. I know she has her episodes, and while she has her episode, then she would have to do certain things or take certain medication, but daily she doesn't have any medication.
Okay, see, that's actually interesting because like I know in the UK, especially like in London, people who are actually diagnosed with sickle cell from young, like the doctors encourage you to take penicillin and folic acid from a young age, and it's something they encourage you to take daily. Obviously, penicillin is like an antibiotic, and then folic acid is to help like your immune system. I personally don't take that, but that's because I choose to, because I'm an adult now, so I can make that own choice. I'm on some other medication for sickle cell. But yeah, so in like London, the doctors actually encourage you from a young age. So it's actually interesting to hear that your niece doesn't take any medication at all. Yeah.
And maybe have to, as she continues, and hopefully it stays that way, but as she continues, I should ask her again, and probably if we do a part 2 or something, then I can give an update on it.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting as well. We'll ask her, I don't know if you know as well, how often does she have like episodes, like crisis episodes as well, considering that she's not on any medication?
She has, when she was younger, I would say that it was more frequent. But in terms of now, like she would get it while she's in school, so that 3-month period, she would have like an episode or a flare up, say maybe 7 times. Some of the times where it's mild, and some of the times where she would need to be hospitalized. Or even if she's not hospitalized, then she will go to the hospital to get the treatment and for them to look at her and then discharge her if need be.
Yeah, as well, like so for example, I have to take like vitamin D tablets because obviously we don't get the natural sun in London, whereas probably in Grenada you wouldn't need to take vitamin D because obviously you're getting the natural sun all the time. So I suppose there's definitely like a difference there as well.
But I am actually happy that we did this because I'm learning and then seeing the difference. And not that I want her to, having to take the medication daily and all of that, but just seeing how other people go through things that are common with each other, but yet different in that way. So that's
I think this is really important, really important, where we could just examine different lifestyles and possibly how it affects maybe people in the Caribbean compared to living in the UK as well. It's really important. So next question. So what are your coping mechanisms when it comes to dealing with the pain? At times, how do you feel mentally? And how do you deal with it, like mentally, how do you deal with it, and also how do you cope with the pain?
Yeah, so I feel like it's very hard in terms of like coping with the pain, and I feel like people who don't suffer from sickle cell, they will never really understand it. Like as much times as you like explain to someone and they'll be like, I understand, until you actually suffer from sickle cell yourself, you will never fully understand what it's like going through the pain. And for me personally, how I deal with it, my coping mechanism is that I always take my mind off the pain. So if I'm like in bed just thinking about how much pain I'm in, or like, you know, I'm unable to do this, I'm unable to do that, then for some reason it makes the pain, I feel like the pain gets stronger. But if I take my mind away to a happy place, if I think about when I was on holiday, or like good times with my friends and my family, or even if I'm just like watching a movie, like my mind's off the pain. So that's my coping mechanism for it. Like I just totally take my mind off it, and then it seems to like settle down. And from young, I think like when I was really young, my mum took me to, I think he was a psychologist. He was like a pain psychologist. So he helped me, and he actually came up with that coping mechanism, and it stuck with me throughout my whole like life. So I just always take my mind off the pain. I don't think about it. I don't think about like how I'm different to other people, or I don't just like dwell on the pain or feel sorry for myself. I just take my mind away from it, and then the pain actually seems to settle, because I feel like the mind is a very strong thing. So if you have a positive mindset, then the pain will actually disappear. And the thing is with sickle cell, like I know like people who have sickle cell, but at the same time, sickle cell doesn't rule you, it's your body. So you need to know how to like control it. So that's how I deal with it.
Good.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Nice. For Cherie, she said she deal with it by music. So she would drown it out with music. She would whine because I would hear her sometimes, or she would be really quiet. She's a type of person that she would just go in her room, lay down, put on the headphones, and just grind the pain. And she has a lot of problem with body pain. So that's the most thing with her for body pain. Body's aching, it's hurting. I know she usually go to, is it a center? Clinic, sickle cell clinic. I think every 6 weeks. And she would go. So I know she would go there. I'm sure she's getting educated on it and doing what she needs to do. But yeah, she would definitely, music is the top one for her.
Yeah.
Again, so it's taking your mind off the pain really, because when you're in like got music, you're in your own zone. So yeah, I think that's the way to deal with it really.
Yeah,
Sure.
Next question.
Oh, I think you've gone on mute.
Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, I can answer that one. So what barriers, if any, have you faced being a woman, and for Cherie's case, a child with sickle cell, including within your friendship groups and in the workplace?
So I would say like growing up as a child, a barrier, for example, just like a small example, when I was in like primary school, my whole like class will go swimming, and I wasn't able to because of the temperature of the water. So obviously like in like the UK, I don't know if it's the UK or just London, part of the like curriculum is that you go to swimming lessons, and I wasn't able to, so my whole class is all going swimming and I'm having to stay back. So obviously that will make me feel a type of way, especially as a young child. I would say as well, as a female, once I started going to like high school, secondary school, not sure what they call it in Grenada, is it? Okay. Yeah, when I started going into like secondary school, obviously you're facing a lot of other like teenage girls at this point who doesn't understand what sickle cell is or know what sickle cell is. And you know girls can be a bit bitchy sometimes, so I would come across people saying, oh, you sickle cell girl, because they don't know about sickle cell, they're not educated about sickle cell. So you do come across that, but it's just about having, as I said, a positive mindset and knowing how to deal with these things. I will say in a workplace, as I've gotten older, obviously being a woman is one thing in a workplace anyway, being a Black woman is another thing, and then on top of that, having sickle cell is another thing. But luckily I've always had like positive experiences within workplaces. I also know my rights as well when it comes to like discrimination and everything, so I'm very like knowledgeable in that sector there. But I would say it is very frustrating when you're having to constantly repeat yourself in terms of, one thing for me is I can't be exposed to much air conditioning. So in the office, when there's aircon on, obviously summertime in London can get really hot, and in the office everyone wants the aircon on, like blowing, and for me I can't have that at all. That would definitely give me a crisis. So it's about, and then I'm having to like move myself, go into another room, or just telling them that I actually physically cannot come into the office if it's like that. And obviously some people wouldn't understand. They think I'm just making up excuses, I'm lazy, I don't want to come into the office. But it's just, as I said, like standing up for your rights. Then, I have, or if you need medical evidence, I can give that to you. So, you have to know your rights within the workplace as well. But as I said, luckily, I've always had like a great experience within the workplace, and they've always been understanding.
Nice.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
really good.
Yeah.
And I was looking at that question when Ginette added that question. I was like, I don't think there's much there, but hearing the answer is like, wow, it's in depth. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's interesting to hear, it's really interesting to hear what you like from primary school, the barriers that you face in terms of just simple things that people take for granted, like going swimming is the subject, added to the curriculum. And the fact that you wasn't able to do that, and then moving on to high school, and then other children being uneducated. And that's why it's so important for us to like educate on sickle cell, and not just in the Black community, but like within, like everywhere, worldwide, because a lot of people don't understand or know about it. And with the not knowing comes ignorance, because they don't know. So I think it's really important that it should be definitely, people need to be educated. And it stems from primary, secondary, and in workplaces as well. It's so important. So important.
Catching back on like this swimming example, obviously swimming is like a life experience that people should be able to have, like a life skill that people should be able to have. And like even at my age now at 26, I still don't know how to swim, and that's not actually my fault, but it's because of having sickle cell and the temperatures never being like right. For example, I just went on holiday not too long ago, and I actually had an incident where I almost like drowned under the water. And it's like things like that where it's like, oh, like I wish I was able to swim, but I just physically can't. So that's a barrier that I have to like live with throughout my whole life. So yeah.
Well, for Shiri's, she's in school now. She actually just passed to go to secondary school. So for her, some barriers that she had was, well, the swimming. She's not allowed to, but because she's at that age where she always wants to, her mom, it has learning to swim week different times here in Grenada. So her mom would allow her to do that once in a while to see, but she would always have an episode after the case. And I think now she's learning that, okay, yes, you want to do it. However, when you do it, these are the consequences for it. But it's something that she loved to do. And then we're on an island too. So we're always at the beach. We're always going out to the pool. We're always going to a waterfall somewhere. So she's at least trying to break down the barrier, but it hasn't always been working for her. Another thing too is athletics. We're big on sports here on the island. So when she was actually in preschool and they weren't aware of her diagnosis, she actually did well in track and field. However, as she got the diagnosis, she had to step away from it. And that's something, obviously she got big now, so she's playing woman, but it's something that she enjoys doing, but she cannot do it anymore because of that. So that's two things. And she always have to stay hydrated. If it's wanted, she always constantly have to be drinking the water. And sometimes she falls short because she feel like, okay, when she's swimming, she feel like, okay, the body's getting the water on her, but it's not always the case. She needs to drink the water. So these are two things that is constantly a reminder. And she has to always tell the school that, okay, she cannot do this, this, and this because of that. So her mom always have to give a warning to the school before she starts. So I know that's something that she's going to have to do with her new school that she's going into as well.
I don't know if you know, but has she missed much school because of having crisis and stuff?
Yes, actually she did. She missed a lot of school because one, she will be hospitalized. So she has to spend periods in hospital before they discharge her. And then sometimes she's at home, but she cannot make it. And then around the whole COVID situation, she was having episodes and then it's online. So still she cannot attend, or, you know, she's uncomfortable, she's in distress. So that has been a problem too. With friends, well, obviously the friends will understand. All they know is they want to do this and this, such activities, but she's not able to. And then it's like, okay, so she plays pan, and I wanted her to play with the senior group. She's just a junior, but usually we will take on juniors in the senior band. And she wasn't able to do that this year because when you play pan, you have to stand behind your instrument to play. So after she spent maybe 2 or 3 hours in the junior band, standing, her body can't take it to move on to the senior group practice to do that. So these are certain things that she's faced with on a daily basis.
Oh, it's crazy. So next question. So why is testing so important when being in a relationship and prior to starting a family? And could you just explain the risks in failing to test yourself and partner before starting a family?
So growing up, obviously my mum always explained to me that, you know, when I reach a certain age and I settle down, find a partner, want to start a family, it's really important to ensure that my partner doesn't have sickle cell. And because I have the full-blown sickle cell SS, it's important that my partner doesn't even have the trait, because there is, I think it's 4 out of 5 chances that my child will then end up with sickle cell. And it has been difficult. So for example, I was with an ex-partner and he went and done the test. I was like, you need to get tested for sickle cell. Obviously I've got sickle cell, and then we found out he actually had the trait. And it was very difficult for me because I was like, oh my God, like I'm in a sticky situation here. I can't help like who I fall for. But at the same time now, how is the future going to work for us? And he was very much like, we can make this work, you know, there's options. But as I said, I feel like people who don't suffer from sickle cell, it's very easy for them to say that, but because they haven't gone through it. I know what I've been through, and I wouldn't want to put my child through that. So it is a very sticky situation. So I would advise anyone, if you have sickle cell, for your partner to get tested in advance. So my current partner, who I am with now, when we first got together, I was like, you really need to get tested. He told me he had before, but I was like, I need to see it for myself. So then he got tested again, and he doesn't have sickle cell, thank God. But yeah, no, it's really important because I feel like as well, there's so many people out there that have the trait and don't know. So like there's so many friends who I've like spoken to, and I'm like, have you been tested for sickle cell? Do you have the trait? And they're just like, I don't know. Like they just don't know. There's so many people out there who actually, because the trait doesn't really affect people in that way, they just don't know. And like, for example, that's how I had sickle cell, because my mum didn't know that she was the trait. My dad didn't know he was a trait. They got together, made me, and then now I've got sickle cell. So it's so important for people to get tested. It's just so I couldn't like express it enough how important it is for people to get tested, because you just really never know. And then when you do have a child now, it's such a shock. It's such a shock, and you don't know what to do. You're not educated about sickle cell, and it can be So definitely, it's so important to get tested. I think it's like quite easy to get tested as well. It's just a blood test. So well, here it is anyway. I'm not sure about in Grenada, but yeah, it's just a blood test as well. So I would definitely encourage people to get tested.
Yeah, definitely. Go to your GPs and request for that test. It is so important. It's vital. Because you never know. Even with me, I didn't know until like I think after we found out Latiya had sickle cell, and then I got tested. I don't know what age I was, but yeah, I got tested after that, and yeah, I've got the trait. So I have to be careful with who I meet and stuff, because my child could potentially have sickle cell SS if they don't, if they don't test, so it's important.
Well, this question is not for Sharice, but at least I'm taking it all in, because I didn't ask her obviously, but I'm taking it in because here I can speak for us. Like, we are still learning about sickle cell and everything, because it's not something that is common.
Yeah.
And if it is common, people are not talking about it, so we are ignorant on this matter. So I'll definitely give Sharice this advice, and I know she will be looking at it also, but make sure that she keep that into consideration. And I too need to get tested for it, because I haven't been tested for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the last question. Do you want to get the last question?
Sure. What advice would you give young girls and women, especially those within the Caribbean or Africa, who also have sickle cell?
So my advice would be to them is honestly to just educate yourself. Like, growing up, it was so important for like me and my family to just educate ourselves on it. Like, as Ginette said before, like no one in my family knew what sickle cell was until I came. So I think it's just so important to educate yourself. And one advice that I would definitely give as well is, no one knows your body better than you do. So there's been so many times when I've been in like hospital and like the doctors are telling me I need this or I need that, but I know my body better than anyone else. So you just have to learn what works for you. It's very important for you to learn your limits as well, like know what your limits are. I understand, like, as maybe, from going from a teenager to adulthood, there's certain things you might want to do, partying, I don't know, drinking or whatever, but you need to know your limits. Like, you need to know, I'm not saying that you need to know that you're different to everyone else, because I don't like that phrase, but you just need to know that there's limitations, otherwise there's consequences for you. There might not be consequences for other people, but there will be for you. In the Caribbean and Africa, I know like they might not be as educated as like London, or they don't have, the medical access like we do. So I think it's very important to just talk about it. I've never been like ashamed or embarrassed to tell anyone that I have sickle cell. And I think it's very important for people to be like that as well, because number one, you're raising awareness, you're spreading the word of like sickle cell, what it is, what can happen, etc. And then at the same time, it's a part of you, it's part of your identity, so you should own it. You should never be ashamed of who you are. So that's my advice that I would give to people in the Caribbean and Africa.
Nice.
Right.
Shari said to educate yourself, ask questions when you go to your clinics and you go to the doctors, ask questions, do your research on your own, and then educate people on sickle cell or sickle cell traits or the different things that can happen. And she also said to keep up with the medication or drinking the water. Any advice that a doctor give you, make sure that you keep up on it, and so that you can fight what you're going through. So that's the three main things that she said.
Yeah, that's great. And I would also like saying as well, when it comes to educating yourself, there's so much, like, even though maybe it may be a bit harder in the Caribbean and in Africa, but we've got the internet. So you can always go on to YouTube, go on to the internet and stuff, and do your own research as much as you can, And also Facebook, there's loads of Facebook groups that you could join as well. And yeah, they could educate you also. Yeah. And I would also like to say, like what you said earlier, T, about sickle cell, don't let sickle cell rule you. Like, you could, like, even though you've got sickle cell, like you could reach your full potential, you could live a fulfilling life. Like, you've done so much as well, where you've done like performing arts and things like that, dance, been in the theatre and things like that. So you could do anything, but just know your body, like you said. You just have to know your body, know your limits, but don't limit yourself just because you've got sickle cell.
Exactly.
Like growing up, I missed like so much primary school. So I never thought I would be able to, go to, it was just like at one stage we didn't think I was gonna like pass my exams to go to high school or to go to college or go to uni, and I'd done all of it. I graduated, I got a bachelor's, and as Ginette said, I've like performed in West End theatres, which is actually a big thing in the UK. To be able to get into like the theatres here, it's actually a big thing. I've been on TV dancing, like I've accomplished so much. So never let having like sickle cell make you think that you can't do things, because once you put your mind to it, as I said before, the mind is a very powerful thing. You actually can. But as you were saying, Vanessa, as well, and your niece was saying, it's just knowing what you have to do. Obviously sickle cell affects people in different ways, but I think it's important to actually speak to other people with sickle cell as well. Example is when COVID came out, there were so many different stories about taking, the COVID jab, and with having sickle cell, I was like very worried, and like my family were worried and didn't want me to take like, the COVID jab, but I was like, I need to speak to people who have sickle cell. I understand you lot's concerns, but you guys don't have sickle cell. I need to do what's best for me. And then I reached out to people on Instagram with sickle cell. I got their views and opinions, see how it affected them, if it affected them in any way. And then I just took like their advice and their opinions, and I thought what's best for me. So I feel like it's very important to speak to like other people who have sickle cell as well, because they can relate to you more than like others who don't.
Very true.
Yeah. So it's always good to have a community of people who care for you and give different feedback, but is important also to have that community of people who are going through the same thing or similar situation as you, so you guys can give feedback and give your stories and your testimonies, and that too can help others with whatever they're going through, because probably you'll be like, okay, well, I'm going through this, and you're going through the same thing, but I didn't know. I was in the dark about this. So it's always important to communicate and to liaise with other people. That it doesn't necessarily have to be family members, but other people as well, as you've been saying throughout this whole podcast. So that is amazing.
Yeah. That was really good. Very, very interesting and vital topic of discussion. So yeah.
There are a lot of people going through this, but in Grenada, I have to say we don't share much, because I think we like to keep our business to ourselves and not letting people into our business, at least the majority of us here in Grenada. So like if you're going through something, you'll help your immediate family on it. And I just think that along with other things, we just need to educate and have people be aware that certain things happen and there are different things that happen because of it. So that's something that we need to work on here on the island.
And also as well, it's like nothing to be ashamed of. There's always this stigma behind sickle cell. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. There's no stigma, nothing, like, it's just something that affects us in a Black community. And like there is other illnesses as well out there, so there's nothing to be ashamed of. And it's just vital to talk, but it's so important, because when you don't talk as well, not only is it that affecting you physically, it could affect mentally. So yeah, it's just important just to talk to people. So yeah.
And I've been calling you Latiya, and I heard Ginette said a different one. I think I heard a Y in there instead of a V. Can you say the name again for us?
It's Latiya.
Latiya. Look at me giving you a different name.
But Ginette calls me T. Okay. I think throughout she's been calling me T. Yeah,
I heard she said
T.
So Latiya, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, and we hope that you will join us again sooner rather than later, maybe to give an update on sickle cell or to engage us in another topic. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Right, thank you. Take care.
Bye.
And thanks to Cherise. for sending in.
And Sharice, especially.
Yeah.
You can't forget Sharice. Thank you,
Yeah.
Sharice.
Bye.
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 All right, guys, so she's gone. And before we end, please remember to engage in the comment section if you're tuning in on YouTube. And yeah, follow our socials.
Yes, thank you guys for watching. And you know, please share this podcast, share this episode of the podcast, because it's such an important topic that is not often spoken about, and we need to push this awareness when it comes to sickle cell. It is something that I'm most I wouldn't say passionate, is that the right word, but I just think it's so important that we spread awareness surrounding sickle cell. So please share.
Yes, guys. Thank you. And bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye.